Okay, so the assessment gave us a couple of examples that can help us figure out how to score this assessment. So looking at example A, we see that the entry point was item number 20, and that would have been based on the chronological age of the client. So looking at this, we see that the client received consecutive ones at the beginning of the assessment. So the administrator continued the assessment. And they continued this until they reached the ceiling, which was the cutoff. And that's 3 consecutive zeros in a row. So then, in order to score this, the basal would be right here, because that's 3 consecutive ones in a row. And the reason why this wouldn't be the basal, because you want the basal closest to the ceiling. So in this case, it would be 33, 34, and 35, because that's closest to the ceiling. So in order to score this, you start at the basal that's closest to the ceiling, so 35, and you count all of the numbers. Even the item numbers that weren't given still count as credit, and even the zeros. So in this case, the raw score would be 35, and that's the number that the basal cuts off. So in example B, the client began again at 20. I know it's kind of hard to tell, but the assessment in the description, the client started at 20, and they scored 3 consecutive zeros in a row. So since they started with 3 consecutive zeros, they started back at 19 and began working backwards. And they worked backwards until they reached their basal, which was 3 consecutive ones. And since they stopped there, that's the basal that's closest to the ceiling. So they began at the cutoff for score. So 14, and remember all of the item numbers are counted. So they have 14, 15, 16, 17. They stop there because that's the cutoff from the ceiling. So 17 is your raw score. So there's a couple of examples that tell you how to score this assessment.